Can you believe we are not in Arizona? We're actually in the middle of Victoria in Australia, and I'm here with Jim, the founder, creator, ideas man, horticulturalist of Cactus Country. A beautiful place full of cacti. And cacti is something I have very little knowledge about, so I'm really excited to pick your brain, tour the beautiful place and learn everything about cacti.
Well, welcome guys, and let's go do it.
All right, Jim, how did all of this start? Because, I mean, I'm assuming it took a long time to get to where it is right now. So when did you start? How did you start? Tell me your story, please.
Yeah, well, my father had cacti and I just grew up around them and knew what cacti were. And we went to the famous collections as a child from about 6 years of age. I went to Dawson's and Fields and never knew the significance of it back then because I was just a little child. But
that was all in Australia though, right?
All in Australia. Yeah, okay. This is in Victoria.
Yeah, okay. All here, all locally.
These to the Trichocereus community, those two names are the famous ones, you know. And so I went there as a child and saw those collections grow a bit, and I always was blown away by the big cactus. That was the thing I really loved, big cactus. And I always had this idea in my mind that other people would really like to go and visit somewhere where there were big cactus. And in 1983 we got the opportunity to buy half of a orchard, and then we didn't have a collection of cactus, but through a number of coincidences we were offered a collection from South Australia that brothers and sisters wanted to go somewhere where the public would see it. And they'd heard about my idea and thought, let's go and see him and offer him the collection. So we came to an arrangement, and Julie and I drove to South Australia after school on Friday night. We set off in the van. We got over there and we started depotting plants. So Mr. Ed Cromer had a block in Loxton and he had around 3,000 plants in his backyard. It was crammed full of cacti. And
all potted?
All potted. There were a few in the garden, but majority of those were in pots.
Made your life easy at the time then.
Yeah, but we had to depot them because there's no way we could fit them in the van and lay them. So we just wrapped them in newspaper, and then we drove back and had to be back. Julie had to be at school on Monday morning, so it was a long trip, but we got it done. And then where we're standing now is where the original collection started. And we put them in the ground in there, in the ground, and then away they went. And then we had to shift them out. And then, you know, what is it, about 40 odd years later, we're still expanding.
Slightly larger. But basically, it was always the plan. This was the plan. That wasn't a coincidence. Like you did this on purpose. Okay. Yeah. And did you select the site with that in mind? Like, is it this is specifically suitable for these plants?
Yes.
Yeah. And what makes it so suitable then?
Well, this is the old Murray River, where it ran about 40,000 years ago, and it's all alluvial deposits. So we have a variation on this small site where we are of about 20 acres. We've got clay, but what it really is that, let's just say the river ran through here, and we've got all the sand, gravel, everything here, so excellent drainage. Within 2 hours of this being flooded, stops raining, all the water's gone. It just drains away, and we pump some of it off. And the other side, on each side, was clay, 2 clay ridges, and we found out about don't grow cacti on clay ridges. It doesn't work well.
Perfect. Oh well, sounds like you got lucky, you had a plan and it worked out.
Yes.
The reason I'm here so early, and I really want to talk more about you, but we gotta make sure we catch the flowers before they close, right? We got here nice and early because cacti flower at night.
Cacti flower at night.
Yeah,
exactly.
so I wanted to, I can spot a little yellow one over there, but you probably know where the nicest ones are. You want to show me some of those?
Okay, let's
Beautiful.
go. One of our
Wow.
scruffy looking plants, but night flowering with a fruit on it. A very tasty fruit too.
Nice. That's not a prickly pear, is it?
No,
Prickly
no.
pear is like is that an overarching name?
Yes, yes. Prickly pear covers a lot of things. It's a version of this one, Eriocereus, that has gone wild in Queensland, I think. And you can see the ants here raiding this
Yeah, it looks
guy.
like dragon fruit.
Yes, it is. Same family.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, hang on. This is not this. This is this.
That,
right?
yes.
Ah, I was wondering why this one stalk looks so different. Yes, okay. Now I can see the dragon
Yeah.
fruit resemblance.
Yes, and this is just one of the species in that family,
Yeah.
or that genus, I should say.
Yeah, it's like when
And
people
then-
say philodendron, I'm like, yeah, but which one? You know?
Yum.
So good.
Oh, so good.
Is it sour?
No.
I want to taste it. Look, I'm a big fan of crunchy stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's
but-
crunchy.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Doesn't have much flavour though, no offence. Sorry.
No, it doesn't, and that's why, you know, like I've bred a few different Soreas, and we've gone for, some are just total failures, but they're in the landscape, but gradually we're taking them out and keeping them better tasting.
When you
ones.
say total failure,
Wow, the fruit is very disappointing.
so total failure in relation to fruit. So
Eat the whole thing?
Yeah, eat it. It doesn't
go
taste
for
like anything.
You've got one or two ants, but don't worry
it has
about that.
beautiful texture. What? AJ, it tastes like nothing.
Ants in here?
No,
I already swiped them off for you.
You see this plant in the background here? How it's got fresh growth. Now it
Yes.
hasn't been watered, it hasn't had any rain, and yet it's growing. So it has hit its natural growing time of the year, and it's taking whatever moisture it can find to grow to make room to flower for next year, because if they don't grow, they don't flower. So one of the tips for all you guys at home is you have to grow your plants in order to get flowers.
Good one. And they're all ant pollinated?
I know, bats.
Ah.
So the bats come
hectic.
in and land. Here it's adaptation. Nature always adapts. There's another one up there. So these are all night openings. So they open around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, just after dark. And then they'll be closed. As soon as the sun comes up and sort of hits them, they'll start to close up.
Nice.
Yeah.
This one? So the
All
stump's
it
going to
is,
stay?
that would have been a cutting, that stump would have been a cutting and
Yeah.
grafted onto. And you can see
Oh, it's a grafted one.
Yeah,
So this
yeah.
is the bottom part.
this is
Yeah.
Super Pedro.
And then you put another one on top, and that is
Yeah.
because the one on top would not survive
No,
here without
it's
it? Or?
it's just to get the monstrose part going really well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the bottom species has a better root system, I suppose.
Yes,
And
yeah,
the top
big-
species
big,
is the
good.
more desirable to look
Yeah.
at.
Yeah. We graft something that's better for various reasons. Where was the flower I was looking at?
Oh my god, this one's purple. Or blue.
Yeah, they come out very. Oh, flower down there. So these are Pilocereuses.
And then is this fully open?
Yes. And if you feel that it's very rigid and very.
Oh yeah.
So that's so that the little microbats at night can come in and land and then stick their head in, getting the pollen, and then they go to another flower afterwards. And that's how they get pollinated.
And did you say the bats do it here, or that's native? Naturally?
We have microbats here, but I don't know whether the microbats, because these stay open till around 10 o'clock. And we get a few little insects and things coming in. So nature replaces something.
Yeah,
If
okay.
something's missing, something else takes over.
I mean, we've got plenty of bats in Australia.
Oh, we've got a lot of little microbats, and I would think that if they find it, that they would come, and it's
Oh, for sure.
all creatures find the easy way to get energy.
Nature has a strong will to survive. That's
And then
for
we've got Magnifica here.
These are
Pilocereus.
exceptionally beautiful with the black.
Oh yeah, with the really blue patina. And then
It's you using the fancy words.
yeah, it's slightly different. Pilocereus there, that's Ganulii, and
I
then
really
Magnifica
like
in the
them.
background.
I do like this one in the back. They're really cool.
Yeah, isn't it?
They're all a little bit bluish.
Yes.
And they're all in the same area and they're all under shade. So are they different to the cacti out there?
Yes, a lot of these Pilocereus, all the blue things here are Pilocereus, and a lot of these come from Brazil, and they grow in, I think they call it the Caatinga, and the Caatinga is like, you know, a short forest, and these plants grow up amongst there, and this is their, you know.
So basically not in a desert. Because
Yes.
it's like a stereotype that all cacti are desert plants, right?
They're not, no desert
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
It's only that the Caatinga is dry
Yeah.
for maybe 6 months of the year, and then the rainy season comes and it pours rain.
Okay.
And they could be sitting in wet ground for months, so
Which normally I would assume they would rot, but they don't.
they don't.
Okay.
No, because their system is adapted
Yeah.
for that particular.
And is that also why they're blue? Is
Yes.
that like, I mean,
Well-
not because of the water, but I suppose because of where they grow up.
Yes,
Yeah.
it has something to do with the climate.
Do we know what it is, or is that?
Not that I know of. I've never seen or heard an actual theory as to why they're all blue.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
You know, I really love that because often, I mean, I know very little about plants in the grand scheme of things, actually. I just appreciate them.
Absolutely the
But
same here.
people always assume that at some stage you must know everything about plants, right? So there's somebody like you who's obviously put the time in, you know, into creating this place. You still also don't know, and you're also cool with it, you know? Like, I think once you get to that stage of accepting that there's just things you don't know and you will never find out, and you just accept them.
It's exactly
like, you can
right,
actually
yeah.
enjoy the hobby a little more.
Yeah, and it's about, like what I've learned is it took me probably 40 years to learn that nature knows everything.
Yeah.
I know very little.
Oh, I love that.
Just look at what's happening. And you know, I've shifted numerous plants, I've lost numerous plants, and then you learn from that. And what I've found is if something's not doing well somewhere, shift it around, change the light source, change the soil condition, and usually it works. Like, it might take 2 or 3 goes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Do all cacti flower at night?
No, a lot of the South American ones open up at night to take, because they on the mountains that they grow on, a lot of them, or the deserts that they grow on over there, they really have little opportunity to flower and get pollinated. So their strategy has to be that they have to be open when there's a pollinator. And so moths
Yeah.
are one of the pollinators, and bats are
Yeah.
one of the other pollinators. And so at night these creatures are active,
Yep.
so you have to flower at that time or else you're extinct.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I suspect there's a lot of cacti have gone extinct.
And I love that when we talk about these things, we always talk about, like, obviously plants are conscious, right? But
Yeah.
we always talk about it like the plant made a deliberate choice to do that, but it's just selection, right?
Well,
it's just through evolution.
It's evolution.
There wasn't like, they didn't have a group gathering, be like, let's start flowering at nighttime. It was just the ones that flowered at nighttime was the ones that survived.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
It's a lengthy process, you know? That mechanism probably developed over
maybe
thousands,
a million
millions of
or
years,
100
right?
million years, who knows?
You also manipulated the land a little bit, right, to make it work, or like you put some
Yes.
sand there and like to
Definitely.
create like a landscape, right?
Yeah.
But fundamentally,
So-
the soil was suitable already, right?
Yes, that there is red sand,
Yeah.
and it drains, and it's probably more like what cacti grow in the desert conditions. It's blowing sand and it's settled, and beaches and all the rest of it. And the reason it suits the South American cacti so much is because they grow on mountainsides, hillsides. If it rains, the water runs off really quickly. Snow melt time of the year, water runs off as it melts. So you go from being really cold to the ground being flush in probably 2 weeks, and then, you know, it warms up very rapidly. And they swing their night-day temperatures where they're up 10,000 feet on the mountains. It swings rapidly between freezing cold at night and really hot during the day. hence the hair on the cacti.
Ah, interesting.
That's why. If we go,
Oh, talking about big cacti, this one's got to be your favorite then, or is it rude to ask if you have favorites?
I don't really have favourites anymore, but you know, I like big cacti.
Yeah, so you
But
like.
then again, I like hairy cacti. Then again, I like flowering cacti, you know. So I breed, coloured flowers is my passion, to breed the big cacti like this guy here in this landscape.
Yeah.
These are Trichocereus, and they really only have white flowers except for one or two exceptions, which are extremely hard to breed with. So what I wanted to create was coloured flowers. And quite a few years ago now, about 8 years ago, a friend gave me a couple of coloured flowers from America, seedlings from seed that he'd imported, and had a couple of coloured flowers in them. So now I've crossed numerous with them, and I've got around, I don't know, maybe 1,000 plants that are coloured.
You have specimens over here that are larger than they would be in the wild
Yeah.
because you have better conditions.
Yes, we have a longer growing season than what they have. So let's think of, say, Texas. You know, Texas gets its rainy season for 1 month, let's say, and the plants there, they have to grow for the whole year on 1 month of moisture. But here we might get 6 months of good weather that keeps them growing for 6 months, because it's about, a lot of people don't realise it's about day-night temperature. So Strathmerton is in the sweet spot between New South Wales and Victoria. So the reason that in Queensland you can't grow a lot of cacti is because a lot of these plants come from extreme cold, extreme heat conditions. And so the tropics is not suited to them.
I thought it was the humidity there.
It's also the humidity, but it's the fact that it's just warm all the time. And so they don't get this cold rest period where they go into hibernation. Here we get the hibernation, then we get the good period of the year, and our autumns and our springs is the growing time where they get multiple growing season at the right temperature and the right light and everything.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
and then you end up with
plants like this.
I mean, we really got to stand right next to it so you can really understand the full scale. Wow.
And then the beauty is we've got a few flowers.
Yeah.
So this is one of my hybrids.
Look at this. You made this?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. This is a cross between a little growing plant that's like that one down there where the shadow is.
Which one?
Just out of the light.
This
the
one?
there, that's an echinopsis. That's full size. And then that was crossed with the one behind us that's flowering.
So this one crossed with
that one
this
there. One like that, smaller flower. That's exactly how they would be in the wild.
Yes, they are a bit smaller.
Yeah. And then here you can see the pinkish tinge from the pink flowered echinopsis on the back petals and the bigger flower.
Wow. And does each flower only bloom once, or do they come back?
No, each flower only blooms once, and each aerial on these, which is one of these, only produces one bud. But the one down here that hasn't flowered can flower at any time.
Okay.
Yeah, so then you get multiple all over the place. And
how lucky are we? There's like 10 on here and they only flower once.
Yes.
Oh, just for us. Oh, thank you so much, nature.
Yeah, nature's great.
That is cool. Now, is there also a specific time of the year where they flower, or do they flower at any time? Are we just lucky that we got here? We didn't plan this.
You're extremely lucky that today you picked up, a few coloured flowers, a few of these flowering. And we've got, heaps of fruit all over the place. But first few single flowers start in about late June. As soon as you get a warmish day, some of the ones that get the snow melt comes on the mountains, the Oreocereus, where we were the hairy ones, they'll start flowering at that time of the year.
Okay.
And then we just slowly grow until there's a crescendo in about mid-October to mid-November is like just colour everywhere.
Very fancy words. What was that word with C you said? Crescendo?
Crescendo.
What's that? I don't know that. It's like common knowledge.
A peak.
It's like, isn't that music?
Yes,
Music talk?
crescendo of music.
Yeah, like it's, you're right, the peak of where it's about to go, whoa.
So we got lucky, basically in a nutshell, we got lucky that we get to see so many flowers here today.
Yeah. Oh yes, so this is one of our...
This is beautiful.
Serencias in the old language, because as we know in the plant kingdom these days, the scientific people keep changing things and switching them. So I grew up where this was a Serencia, and this is a Serencia hybrid.
So you just mentioned that this is one of the newer sections of your garden. It doesn't look new, it looks very well established.
No, this is the latest one of the trails that we've put out here in the garden, and this was mostly planted, most of the plants in here except for 2 or 3 bigger ones that were put out just when it was nothing. All the rest of it was planted out in 2004, so around 20 years ago all the plants were just little like this.
Aww.
And that's what they've grown to.
So they grow much faster than we give them credit for.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to show you the quick and simple the way that the hybrids vary from the species, the natural species. If we look in the background there, you can see the 2 cacti, one with a prop against it, but how they've got a trunk that goes up and then they branch.
Yes.
Whereas
you're talking about the 2 big ones, right?
Yes. Yeah. Whereas when we're going past the hybrids around, they're all shooting down low because they've got echinopsis blood in them.
Oh, okay.
Or genes. Genes is probably the more technical
like this,
thing.
like they start from the bottom.
Yes, yes. So that's what echinopsis does. When you look at these plants, they're branching up everywhere.
Yes.
Down low and forming clumps. Now these big ones are now got to that point in their age where they're replicating that same thing and trying to fill in the space to stop the animals and that getting in between and eating them. You've got to keep the rabbits out at all cost.
Oh, the rabbits eat them?
Oh, the rabbits will, yes, if they can get in. And you got to remember, in South America, where a lot of these come from, our pests were llamas, alpacas, sheep, goats. All those animals roamed and they ate everything, and there were millions of them just roaming in big herds, and they ate the landscape down. Hence, a lot of South America has hardly any vegetation that's big like we do in Australia with our big gum trees.
Hectic. But wouldn't the spikes be defense mechanism enough? I mean, I've had a rabbit. When I was like 10 or 12, I had a rabbit, and it liked carrots, not spiky cacti.
Yeah, but it's because it's tamed. You put them out in the wild here. We have wild ones. And
it was not tame, trust me.
Yeah, not tame.
Little Happy was not tame.
Oh, right. We're talking about the defense mechanism. You see, this plant is younger. This is a younger plant. That's probably 10 years older, the one behind us. And you can see down here the aerials and the spikes, and they look pretty spiky, don't they? But come over here. See all these...
next level spiky.
Yes. See all these new brownish coloured spikes? Well, they're all the new spines that have shot this year, and I have no idea why this happens, but this year this plant has felt the need to provide more defence.
Yeah.
I cannot believe the amount of flowers on this. While we're on the topic of hybrids, question, do you think the hybrids grow better than the species?
Oh, absolutely.
Do they grow bigger, stronger, faster, more resilient? Okay. Perfect. So
because they're adapting, each seed generation we do here in this place provides more adaptive to the landscape.
Yeah, fair enough.
This is what happens when you get rot damage.
Oh, this is rot?
Yeah, well, it's not rot now.
So it dried, the colour's over.
Yeah, it's went black. It's called collar rot if it happens down the bottom, and it's crown rot if it happens up the top. I don't know what you call it if it happens on the side, but...
Side rot. Very
but about, I don't know, maybe 2008, I think it was, we got a lot of rot in the garden, and it just is, it was a wet year, and it's something that happens with vegetables and all sorts of plants. You get just a wet year, and then you get rot happens and disease. And the disease got going, and it's natural to cacti. You see it in the wild. Yeah. When you put too many plants together, things happen, and that's what happened here. It got rot. So rather than take it down and take it away, we tried to cure it. So we chopped pieces out to get back to good tissue, and then we sprayed it with an acid, a plant acid that we use on, roses and all sorts of things, and that stopped the rot.
Oh, it worked. we also just spotted a little nest up there.
Oh, that's one of
Is
our little finches. And
I mean, the birds just flew out, but I think up there,
yes,
this one?
See a little hole. Oh,
there'll be a nest on top of the night nest. So there has been like where they just nest at night for a bit of protection up in there because the cats can't get up and get them. And then they built another nest which they're laying their eggs in on top of that, more around the middle.
See if I can get the drone.
So that's
Very
why
cute.
that's why the little female flew out.
Is there like a cacti that you always wanted that you can't get your hands on, or one that you wanted that you tried over here but you just can't get it to work? Like, have you had like failures to the extent where you're giving up?
I've had lots of failures.
Yes.
I've had lots of wants.
Yeah.
But in latter years, I've realised work with what's working in your landscape.
Yes.
That, like I said, is I started off, I didn't know, growing a large collection is much different to wanting to grow a large collection.
Yes.
So what you do is you start learning, particularly a lot of the really small ones. Mm-hmm. They're not useful for what we do as a business. And so therefore, I realised that I might have 1 year, I might have 20 years, I might have 30 years left. But when I die, nobody will look after those little miniature cacti.
Pink. Would that be a hybrid? And is anything with a colourful flower some sort of, no, it can't.
No,
At some stage
a
it
lot
needs
of
to
the
come from
Sorrensias
somewhere,
are
right?
coloured, but
Yeah.
they had tiny flowers. So the adaptation is that this plant has been bred with something like an echinopsis, and that hence it has a long tube on the flower. Now, they don't normally have a long tube. They're very squat down in there, and they're about maybe 1/3 the size of these. They were the original plants, and then they've been crossed together with other coloured flowers to produce this. And this is one of the latter collections that we bought for Cactus Country. And this is one use for a phone. This is what we do when we want to do photographs, guys. We go round and we make it look pretty.
That is
Look at
cool.
this.
Yeah, ideally don't use your hands.
And don't use your hands because you're only going to come to grief. You see, and that's what we do.
iPhone needs to sponsor you.
Yeah,
Apple needs to sponsor you.
sponsor us.
Apple, please contact me.
Well, his number is 047. Hey, quick question. What sort of hybrid is the blue one?
Well, this is a friend of mine was involved in a film that was released recently. I can't think of the name of it, but it's to do with depression on farming, in the farming community. And blue is one of their things that they do for, they paint trees on the side of the roads blue.
I saw some on the way. That's why.
Exactly.
Oh,
That's
so
what
it's like
about.
it's an artwork basically.
Yeah, it's an artwork, but the blue is to do with depression.
Yeah.
So you have beyond blue, and people have adopted the blue colour and they paint a tree. Somebody might have died or whatever to do with that area, and somebody says, right, I'm going to go and paint a tree, and they paint them blue. I thought, why not a blue cactus? So this cacti, for everybody out there, it was dead
Before you painted it.
before we painted it.
Oh my god, let's make this a thing. Like next time the houseplant dies,
Paint it blue.
we paint it blue. I'm gonna do that with my next houseplant that
I
I kill.
reckon a lot of plant people, we do it because somewhere we're a little bit twisted.
Yeah.
And we want to have a plant that we can call our friend. Just, it's just a theory.
Most people, when they get into plants, as horrible as it sounds, there's usually a longing to want to love something a little bit more, or you have a different part of you that's like can't be fulfilled by people.
Mine is ADD or ADH.
Same.
I have to have something. I have to have something to keep me occupied all the time. Otherwise, I go stir crazy.
Right. Something that quietens your mind and not like keeps you busy. But
When you get
quietens your mind.
focused, everything else gets shut out. The chatter in your brain gets quietened down.
See?
Yeah. So for anybody, I'm not too sure if everybody was able to hear AJ's questions behind the camera, but AJ was kind of we're getting a bit personal here, but she was asking, like, you know, usually when somebody goes that hard on something like this, or when you go into plants, and I mean, we can both empathize because we went pretty crazy on plants as well. There's something there, you know, we're looking for something, we're looking for love, attention, distraction, and so
Distraction,
and
a lot of the
you
time.
basically said you get distraction from this.
Oh.
It keeps you occupied, it gives you purpose,
You know, like there's too many hours in a day where if you're just sitting by yourself, your brain starts to go crazy thinking of all these possibilities, and then you got to go, right, let's go and plant some seed. Let's go and clean some cacti. Let's go and kill a few weeds.
100%.
Something to quiet the brain. It's a beautiful piece of machinery, but it needs a bit of management.
Yeah. One thing we haven't touched on at all is you have lots of agaves. That's agaves, no?
Yes. Yeah.
Should we explore them?
Yes, let's go.
Would you like to go? But these are all agaves? They're just different types? Or is there, like, all of these spiky looking ones, like,
Yeah.
they're not aloe veras, they're all agaves?
They're
Or is-
agaves. Agaves are mostly in the Americas and have been probably carted down by previous civilizations down into South America. But most are native to the Middle America and North America. And can go up to the snow line.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. And all these things above us are flowers, and then some of them, Jan, are...
Oh. Oh my God! Ow! Oh, they're spiky. Thanks.
Can we just do that clip one more time?
You want to rain
Here
on
we
me
go.
again?
We're going to rain on you.
Ready, go. Yeah!
Hey! And these are all bulbils, all separate plants that can be grown. These could all grow up to be tequila.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Suddenly you captured my interest. Now, I was actually very interested the whole way through. So, am I right in my understanding is that the mother plant sacrifices herself for the sake of these, right?
Yes, and you can see here that the mother plant is dying.
Oh,
And
sadness.
then here's a baby on the side that's grown off, and another small one down here, another one here. So this little patch is just growing and shooting up over the years, and you can see some in the background there that are dead. You know, they might be 4 or 5 years old, and they're just dying off, and they sacrifice themselves to put all their energy into these. These fall down on the ground. They'll send roots.
I mean, there's hundreds.
Yes, and you can already see, they're sending roots out to get the first little bit of moisture and get their root into the ground, and away they go.
Roots. Like really teeny tiny.
Got it.
Beautiful. That is crazy. So you just said some of these older ones can be up to 5 years old. So so obviously, how old would the mother plant be by the time she flowers?
Probably with angustifolia around about 15 years from just a little seedling or one of these little plants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how long for the flower to actually develop, pollinate, like until we get the shower?
This flower would happen in around 15 years, and this plant here would be probably...
No, but how long does the actual flower take to develop?
This one here was last year, and then during this season it's growing the bulbils.
Okay.
And this plant hardly ever makes seed. It just makes bulbils.
Okay.
So in its environment, the rain comes probably in the afternoon in the high tropics, and it gets rain on the ground, and hence the strategy is drop all these on the ground. A few of them will send their roots into the ground, and hence the population just keeps growing.
So basically that little agave shower that we had, like you can only have that once every 16 years.
Yeah, something like that.
I feel very privileged.
Yeah.
Oh well, thank you. Thanks for that. That was
It's not many
an
people get to
experience.
experience
I don't
that.
think many people have. If you've ever experienced an agave shower, let me know in the comment section. But I'm confidently can say I'm probably the only one. Can we take some home with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it would be cool. Like I don't usually grow agaves, but
It's
I think it
easy
would be
to grow.
cool.
It's one of the
but it would be a
easiest.
good memory.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Jim, on a scale from 1 to 10, how angry are you at people doing this?
I'm not angry because
Really?
I understand after all these years of running a tourist attraction that people like to be like the dogs, I guess.
Mark their territory.
Mark where they've been.
Yeah. Fair
So
enough.
I think this is, this is what people do to say, like, I was here, J and H. That could be Julian Halls. Or,
Well, over there, that's Joseph.
yeah,
Joseph.
yeah, Joseph. 2023 was
John
here,
and
so-
Judy.
Yeah.
K plus AJ. I swear that wasn't me. Oh, and there's Jan's name. Whoa, that's weird.
Have you been here before?
No,
Jan?
fuck, oh, hang on. There's Kate plus AJ W.
and well, we.
Oh no, it's Jan for
I
January.
know.
Come on. She's blaming me. That's rude.
Yeah, look, it doesn't make me angry anymore, but when it first started happening, I used to get really upset about it, and I'd come round and chop them off. And then I realised if you chop them off, they just
You
get
have nothing
closer
left.
and do more.
Yeah.
So
This-
now I
At
just,
least this protects the inside.
But this
one.
is an insane one.
as tourists go, let's think about this. They stand here and they look at this and they stay here a bit longer. So it serves a purpose.
I like your
You should
attitude
put a
on this
sign
one.
saying, "Get some
But what agave is this in the first place? Because this one is one of the most
Stunning.
stunning ones. It's like blue,
Yeah.
silver. Like, you know, blue and silver is really, really desirable.
Yes,
At least in
in
our
landscape.
community, we really like it because it's rare, huh?
Yeah.
What I love the most about it is like the imprint on the back, like from the
Oh,
previous leaf. I
yeah.
think that looks so cool. Have a look at this. Like, you know, you can see where the previous leaf was.
zigzag.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
That is so
imprint
cool.
of the spikes.
Of the spikes before, and right?
These ones down here are the ones that are in contact. So when you get the big ones, you get a bigger imprint.
They're so sharp.
That is so sharp.
Yes, so that's one thing we want to make clear to everybody, I think, is that if you're growing agaves in your garden, when you're working anywhere near them, you should always wear a pair of glasses, because you will
That is, yeah.
either in the most injury caused from agaves and yuccas, which also have a little spike on the end of their bendy leaf, is people getting spiked in the ear.
And then because they'll just turn around and it would just
Yep,
go.
and it goes bang and it gets aimed because your ear funnels in, and
I get goosebumps.
you can become deaf.
I
So
really hate
be
talking
careful,
about
guys.
like injury stuff and
Yeah.
like I can't even watch like paramedic shows on TV. Like I get so antsy about it.
So we go around and we chop the little points on the edges. These need another run through. There's a few pointy ones up here. So we go around with a pair of secateurs, guys, just so you can be safe.
That's really kind. I want to talk about these
The
ones.
stripy
I
ones.
love these ones. And I think maybe just a little follow-up question from what we just spoke about. This is a dangerous tourist attraction to run, isn't it?
It is.
You know, oh my God, your business insurance must be through the roof.
It costs a lot. And that's,
To run.
I don't want to complain about something, but if the insurance company could give me a better deal, it'd be-
Yes. What is this one?
this is
Ow! I just smacked myself on my little propagation. So what is
Agave
this?
Americana and
Nice. Okay.
variegata. So this is the normal variegata, where the green is on the inside and the yellow is on the outside.
Yes.
And then we have, so the normal Americana is blue, like this
Yeah.
plant back there.
Back, yeah.
And then over on the other side there, we have the reverse. That's the reverse variegation.
See, we do that with house plants too. We have like this way variegated and the other way, and like, you know.
And they shoot different, like that all came off one plant.
And that all happened naturally, just natural random mutation over here.
Yeah, and what we,
Nice.
what I do all the time, my job in life, guys, is just to wander around every day looking to find the mutants, the flowers, whatever's different. Pup shooting up down here, and that's how it happens. So the first one of these variegations would have happened off a pure green plant, and somebody got one like this, and then some nursery man got hold of it, and then he grew thousands of them, then released them, and now we got in all our gardens.
Did you create mountains, or like little hills, or did you dig?
Yeah,
paths?
no, a big excavator,
Yeah.
and we dug it out.
You dug it up. So
we
you can
dug it
really
and
walk
built the
through it.
hill
Yeah.
And,
You just gotta-
so this hill here is not actually a hill. It's only half of a rise because you're down below the ground level. So the ground level is about there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the original ground level through here. And then this has been dug out just to drain.
But is it for us to actually walk through? Is it for drainage?
It was drainage, and then people started walking through it. And end of story. It's once you create a track, humans will follow. It's the Pharaoh cactus, and the reason it's called Pharaoh,
Oh my God! What is this? This looks like bird claws.
Yes, Pharaoh cactus meaning iron spikes.
Wow, you would not want to fall on.
Pharaoh
No.
iron. So I have fallen on this to give you.
Of course you have.
To give you an example of what happened was I was backing with the excavator going, and a plant about this high, like this, I tripped on a stone, fell across the thing, and luckily I had one leather glove on, and I just put it down after I ended up with my hip over here, and this leg zipped to, so the whole leg up the side everywhere was zipped to a line of these with hooks. And so everybody realised around that there was a problem because Jim was screaming a lot because he was in a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
Anyway, he got over that and then realised how lucky. And then the next thing I realised was I had a slight problem. I was zipped and there was no way they were going to be able to do anything. So I went, right, somebody get some aloe jelly. And they went and got the tube, and I said, right, okay. Ah!
Rip you off.
And I just ripped it off, and it just did what little 1 centimetre zips from where it was all the way down the leg. So I just dropped my pants and put the yellow on. I wouldn't have cared about anything at that stage. No, it was
You didn't go to hospital?
No.
Oh my goodness, you're a tough man. But is the fruit edible?
Fruit, well,
Or in general, is moist cactus fruit
most cacti
edible?
fruit is edible in some way or other. Let's see, here's one that'll come off. And so the Native Americans
Sorry, I'm just hungry. I haven't had breakfast.
is full of seeds. And what the natives would do during the season, you can see how many seed pods there are. They would collect all these, put them on a stone and grind them, and then they would make a tortilla out of these. Or they would put these in jars and save them for the winter months when there was no, I'm sure there were plenty of bison or whatever, but during the winter months you couldn't get this type of product, so they would put them in jars because they'll store really well in a jar with a closed lid and dry, and during the dry time of the year. Hence, crunch, crunch, crunch.
I won't lick it out of your hand, but
Maybe we could pour.
it has no flavour actually. No flavour.
Lunchtime,
Yeah.
you'll find these out. So in this trail, the red trail, come out here
Yeah.
when the sun's out later in the day, and you'll be able to get nice flower shots of these.
Question, we spoke at the very beginning, we said that, most cacti flower at night. That's why we're here so early, because they're usually pollinated by bats or, what was the other one? Moths.
Moths.
Bat. So clearly this is not pollinated by either of those to flower during the day. What is it?
These come from the Baja Peninsula and the bottom part of the United States and Mexico. And they are day flowers because there's flies, there's animals, So there's probably butterflies. A lot of those areas, there's a lot of diverse, Mexico in particular, very diverse range of plants.
Yeah.
And so these would be pollinated by all the day
I mean, there's lots
animals,
of
insects.
ants in here right now. I can see. Do you
now
think ants could help?
Ants is an interesting story. There's 2 shifts of ants, would you believe, that work on these plants to keep them clean. And so they keep the disease off them because what they're doing... See these guys right in the middle here? Can you get a close-up of those guys? See how he's milking the little teats, if you like to call them that? I'm not sure what we
the
would
little
call them.
spikes.
Oh, cactus boobies.
Not the spikes, those little bumps that are behind the spikes.
Oh, yeah,
I can
okay.
see them.
Yeah? That's giving out like a sugar, a waxy sugar. And that's what the ants harvest. And so if this plant keeps growing, they keep cropping. And so this is the day shift. These guys, they're the day shift. And at night, there's a different shift comes out. Those guys go back in their nest and go to bed. And then the night shift comes in and takes over. And they keep harvesting. And different species of ant But I don't know how they know there's an arrangement, but there is.
Oh, that's... And what benefit does it have to the cactus? Just keeps it clean?
They keep spine bug, they keep mealybug, all those things. They don't grow them on these plants. Now, on other plants, they will grow them to harvest them, to milk the mealybug, for instance, to get a fluid out of those. They will grow them on other cacti, like the mammillaria over there. They would gladly put them on there, but they won't put them on these guys. It's amazing how they've worked this little system out.
Yeah.
Smart.
AJ, that's Phaerocactus pottsii.
Pottsii. Well, pottsii,
Yeah.
these ants are having a mega feast.
They are, aren't they?
Oh my gosh. Look at them.
And you can see what we were talking about before clearly happening here, is that these guys are in there and just milking everything. And on the flower, what they're doing is they're getting wax off the outside of the petals.
Crazy.
Very ingenious what they do.
Now things are a lot more strict. Bringing cactus and or any bio products into the country is really difficult.
We know that it was somewhere around 1970, 1972. They brought in for all cacti in the world, because people were collecting, particularly Americans, were going over into Mexico and collecting cacti for their gardens. They brought it in to stop the fact that human population was spreading, and the areas that cacti grew in, some of the cacti grew in, were very small.
Yes.
And these little mammillarias and things that existed in just small populations somewhere were being wiped out, and so they stopped the trade worldwide.
We have found shade. We have also found headwear.
Yes. So you can find these on. Can you buy these online?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Go get one.
If not, just email us and we can ship it to you.
Because these are actually gorgeous. And
These are really cute and they're reversible.
Yes.
First of all, thanks for having us.
That's no problem at all.
Of
It's been
course.
a pleasure.
This is open to the public,
Yes.
ticketed, but you
5 days a week, let me emphasise, guys, 5 days a week. Wednesday to Sunday. In normal, we're open today because it's a public holiday.
Perfect.
So some public holidays we do open, but when we've been stressed for a long time, sometimes we close.
Yeah, fair enough.
I understand that.
Probably best to check on your Instagram as well. So I will link your website down below. I will link your
Thank
Instagram
you.
down below.
And
so
we will do the same for you guys.
thank you. So
Because we love you now.
yeah, we love each other now.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, check them out. It's amazing. If you are in Australia, definitely worth visiting. If you're not in Australia, you can at least follow them on Instagram, and then you can virtually visit at any time.
I think an important thing to add is you do need a vehicle to get here. I don't believe public transport's going to help you out in this one.
Not reliable.
Yeah.
You need to definitely get a car.
Drive here.
And you definitely need to drive here.
Yeah.
Which is the case with pretty much most botanical gardens I've ever been to, apart from the ones that are right in the middle of a city. Right?
Yeah.
And also, when you're here, they have a cafe, they have food, they have frozen margaritas.
Pet friendly.
Pet
It's
friendly.
so cute as well. Like
Yeah.
I actually took a bit of footage. I'm gonna put it in my B-roll. It's so cute. It looks very I mean, I've never been to Mexico, but I would imagine that is what traditionally Mexican looks like. Have you been? Surely.
Yes, being to Mexico.
This is like a botanic garden. It's an installation.
Yeah.
It's an artwork. It's an attraction. You know,
I like
you did
that.
really well.
Installation artwork, because that's
It is.
what I always thought of it as, is something that you create, something for people to come and see that they can't see anywhere else. They are living sculptures,
Yeah. They are. They're living sculptures.
and they change and grow all the time and
Yeah.
create another view next year that looks a little different. And how great if your living sculptures also flowered.
I know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But it's like how Jan does, or well, even I do, the grow poles. So we can have these plants that can grow to maturity and like really bloom and go beautiful. And then you have these beautiful big ones like you do. And then you have all your smaller scale plants
Yeah.
around it. And then you're mixing the colours and the hues and the textures. And the ADHD brain just is
It
in
runs
love.
away,
It
runs
just runs
away.
away. It's
Oh.
in love.
Imagine if you could just take the three brains now.
Yeah, I know, just mash them together. It'd be
Whoa.
amazing.
Well, we would. we would actually get nothing done, guys. Trust me. Like, you know, it's like my brain would fight for dear life and be like, guys, can we stay on topic? On that note, you know, the one who needs to edit this would actually love to stay on topic because we just briefly touched on houseplants, which I thought was such a great segue into turning this into houseplants.
Yes.
So I have actually been quite vocal on the YouTube about not really being a fan of cacti and or succulents being houseplants because looking at this, I just feel like this is going to be very hard to replicate indoors, right? Like I just feel like you will never really get the full potential out of these plants, whereas I think some of the plants that AJ and I like to grow, we can potentially grow them nicer indoors than in nature because we can protect them a little bit more, right? There's, you know, the leaves won't rip from the wind and so on. Yeah. However, not everybody is fortunate enough to have 20 acres of great land, you know, that has better conditions than the native environment, you know, where you can make them thrive beyond what they would thrive in nature. Yeah. However, like what would you recommend if you are an indoor grower but you would love to get into cacti? Give me everything you got.
Everything. Let's go first, sunlight. You can see how bright it is. So when you're indoors, if you're growing mammillarias, which this is a mammillaria in front of us, and there's, you know, maybe 400, 500 different little species and hybrids in these now. And a lot of these people buy these in a little pot from their nursery or wherever. And then I see so many photographs where people have put them in their lounge room and they just go from being not round like this but thin and pointy.
What's the word for that? Because
Etoliation.
Oh!
What Etoliation?
Etoliation.
Do you want to know a funny story? I used to think it was called epilation. Google it.
No.
It definitely was not right.
No, it's definitely not.
And that is a really wrong word to use.
I thought the word for prosthetic is prostate. So I got those two words confused. I can play the foreigner card. Exactly.
Yes.
Coming back to the topic though.
So you need a windowsill, somewhere where you've got bright light, but not in full sun. So
Not in full sun.
Well, this grows in the full sun and it's used to it because it's here all year. Yeah. But remember, if you've got one window in your house and the sun is swinging from, say, the east across the house and there's no window on that side, so it gets no light whatsoever, and then late in the afternoon, full sun comes in and it will turn it yellow.
Yes, right.
Very common.
It's similar with indoor houseplants.
Yeah, it's just resilience, right? What they're used to.
They burn.
Yeah.
During the winter, they probably won't burn. But the secret is to each week just
rotate. Yeah, just to make sure
a quarter of a turn, an eighth of a turn, and just slowly. That way it adapts, each part adapts to the sunlight, and it will grow evenly.
So and it's not like leaning this way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So small plants like this, very easy on a windowsill or just beyond the light, they will do okay. And we're talking the cacti species here at the moment. So cacti also bonsai. You can bonsai this plant in this pot for 30 or 40 years. Right. And it will be okay with that. You won't get many flowers, but you'll have a nice plant in a pot. If you just rotate, water it, give it a little bit of seaweed occasionally, and it will be fine.
So you're saying an organic fertiliser is really good for this, like a
you don't want to give it too much nitrogen because the nitrogen will make it grow, and then you can end up with a problem.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So just a little bit to keep the soil healthy as well as the plant.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Question to you: with the rotating and the just natural light, not direct sunlight, what if people don't have that? Can they supplement with a grow light? Is a grow light something that you can use on these?
That is exactly where we've got to now with the technology. If you just went back 5 years, you couldn't do that because the lights weren't strong enough. Right. But now the new grow lights, you could grow a whole, like people have aquariums where you could set up a little aquarium ecosystem with grow lights on the top, and they will grow brilliantly.
Okay, so you can supplement with grow lights.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, perfect. Well, there you go. That opens up a whole can of worms for me now. My brain is already ticking about what I can now
The challenge is who can grow the best fish tank with cacti in it.
The
No.
fish tank would be too moist.
No, but I think I just saw.
No moisture. Just don't put moisture. Just have
Yeah.
sand and plants.
Oh, you mean like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I've seen people do like these whole, and then they put lizards in it. What
Yes.
do you call them?
Yeah.
Terrariums.
Terrariums.
You said you can bonsai that and keep it in that pot for 30 years, so we are not repotting this plant, ever.
No.
Like, you don't really need to repot
You
cacti.
don't need
like,
to repot it as long as you put something in there to just supplement the soil occasionally. I've had a plant that was on a plough disc, a metal plough disc, sat out in the full sun, and I planted an array of plants on it of, say, I think there were 6 or 7 to start off with. And 30 years later, 2 of them were still alive, and they went through the summer and never got supplemented, watered or anything.
No, just
And 2 of the species were still alive. And another little story about how tough they are. I had a rock, a great big, a big rock
don't worry,
about
it's not my
this
stick.
big and that like this. And I shifted that rock, and when I shifted the rock, I got down and I pulled 2 little seedlings of Echinopsis out and sat them on top of the rock. And anyway, 2-3 years later, I thought, better shift that rock. So I got
And
it was in amongst some agaves where we were in the agave section, and I got this forklift under it, lifted the rock up, and I was like, oh my God, they're still alive.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Just
So-
bare roots on top of the plant, and they had survived.
So pretty much you're saying if you're an underwaterer and you really like neglecting plants, cacti is for you.
Well, Echinopsis, anything that comes from the part of the Americas where it's really hot, so top of Mexico into the United States, they literally grow in the summertime in the most, like, 100 plus degrees in Fahrenheit
Yeah.
every day.
That's what, 35?
And baking,
Yeah, it's
35
hot.
baking. It's hot. We were there and Julie refused to get out of the air-conditioned car.
Yeah, I don't blame her.
I
Sounds like AJ.
ran around in
Sounds
the
like
desert
me.
like a...
Okay, since we're on this whole bonsaiing situation, so
Yep.
realistically it's just pretty much telling people that they can actually keep them potted in that pot as long as you're only very lightly fertilising just to make sure the plant's healthy, not so much for growth.
Yes.
So if you want to keep it that size, you can. Now, the first thing, and I know this from experience, but the first thing that most people do when they get a new plant, they take it home, they get really excited and they want to repot.
Yes.
It's not a terrible thing to do,
No.
especially if the medium that the plant's in is from a nursery that are just potting them up in something to get them growing
Yes.
quickly.
Yes. And they
But-
water them a lot.
Yeah, they do, and they speed growth, right?
Yeah.
I've experienced that through wholesalers, and I have to
Yep.
change it myself before it goes on to a customer.
Well, we do that with all our plants
Yeah.
because you've got to realise that commercial growers, they have an idea in their mind about
Yeah.
how quick that plant has to be turned over.
Yeah.
And so that's their mission, is to turn out bulk plants for us to buy. And what we've got to do, our job is when we buy that, is then to find out the information about how to grow the plant and to keep it growing
Correct.
for as long as possible.
Yeah. My question to you is, when people are repotting, they're going, I know for a fact, I've done it, they go straight to Bunnings, they go get the cactus mix. Mm-hmm. Are they doing a good thing? Or are we having to, should we design our own medium like how we do our aroid mix?
Yep.
Should we get components and be designing a different mix?
Okay, so we've got 2 separate issues here. We've got you being sort of like a semi-professional grower,
Yeah.
home grower, and you've got just the ordinary person who comes to Cactus Country, purchases a plant and goes home and wants to keep growing it, but then they realise they need to repot it or whatever.
Yeah.
So what I tell my customers here is that if they want to repot, go to Bunnings and buy the dearest mix, because the dearest mix has some fertiliser. What's the one where it's long life fertiliser?
Right.
Slow release,
Okay,
right?
slow release,
Yeah, the
long
little
life
pellets.
fertiliser. So they have some of that in it, and that mix is a good mix because your cacti, you double whatever it says. So if it says 18 months, that'll be 3 years or so that it'll give nutrient to the plant. And then you can, when you repot and you're making up your soil at home or whatever, it's good to have the Bunnings mix as the base, because you're not going to go and try to find sand somewhere and then go and try to find some perlite or
Because
whatever.
you need tiny quantities.
Yeah, it's a little
right?
bit different to normal
So
house plant sizes, right?
That's where I always recommend the Bunnings. It can be any local nursery too, guys.
Yes.
It's not necessarily
Yeah,
Bunnings.
not necessarily Bunnings, just garden centres in
Yes,
general.
garden
Yeah.
centres in general.
Yeah.
And so then you can use that as the basis of the mix, and you can add a little bit of this or a little bit of that, depending on the research information that you do on Google. That's my big tip.
Google is your best friend.
Yes.
You've been doing this for 40 years. You're obviously doing it really well, and you still refer to Google for information, right? So
Yeah.
that's really good too, because honestly, sometimes I just Google and then I feel like I'm cheating. I was like, can it be that easy? It is actually just that
My
easy, isn't
Best
it?
friend, my computer, everything is right here.
I like to have a little learning out of all of my videos. At the end of the video, I like to reflect on it and be like, today we learned something. And I think what we learned today, we obviously learned a lot about cacti, but I think for me personally, the most valuable lesson I learned is that it doesn't matter if you grow cacti in the middle of the countryside in Victoria, or if you grow aeroids somewhere in your apartment in Sydney, we have so much in common actually when it just comes to the journey, the learning curve, the trial and error, why we're doing this, how much time and effort goes into it and so on, and the passion. So that is always fascinating to me, that plants is such a broad spectrum, right?
Yes,
There's so many ways of enjoying plants.
Yep.
And you're obviously extremely niche with your cacti.
Yep.
We're kind of super niche with our aeroids.
Yeah.
And we take like 0.001% of like the plant
Yeah,
world, you know
exactly.
what I mean? There's endless opportunities, but there is also just not one way of doing plants.
No.
There's so many ways of doing plants, and whichever way works for you
Yeah.
is the right way. You know what I mean? Like there is not one way of doing it.
And just like how we all adapt.
Plants will adapt with you
Yes.
and grow in different places. As long as you give them the basic needs that they want and need to grow, they'll grow. They might grow this big, or they may grow that big.
Yeah. And the other thing, just because we were talking about houseplants, a lot of succulents probably are more suitable to being grown indoors than what actual cacti are, because they can take less light. So you would look for succulents that in their natural habitat would grow during the summer underneath vegetation and that's died down. So a lot of the South African plants can take very low light, like your halworthias, all those sort of plants.
Oh yeah.
Very low light. You can put them in the middle of a dark room and they'll last for years and still look good.
Well, I noticed
So-
you had quite.
But you could also put a velvet philodendron there. Just saying, like, you know what I mean? If
And
you
it might be a bit more showy.
yeah,
Hey,
just saying.
This might be a little bit of a challenge for you, Jan. Straight away, I'm okay. No.
Look, if I want cacti, I just come back here.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I think that's a good point.
You don't need
You've
to
made
do
this point
everything.
before, you don't need to do everything. Oh, that was just my ADHD brain going
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
I'm just like, I have to have
You can't
every
do
single
everything.
thing.
That is actually what I've learned.
You have to.
across this
I'm
whole
learning
regime.
this slowly but
Yeah.
surely.
Yeah, I had a DM yesterday, and because I posted that we're here, and they were like, "Oh, are you going to buy cacti? I love cacti." And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh my God, you don't like cacti? Why wouldn't you buy one?" I was like, "No, I like them, but I don't need to buy them."
Yes.
At
yes.
some stage, you also got to realize that, you know what, I can enjoy
That's why
them.
This exists.
And that's
That's
why
why
this exists, guys.
Come
So
here, you know.
I do the work, you do the tour.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You enjoy.
Do what you're best at. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like
yeah.
you don't need to do everything. You don't need to be a jack of all trades. I mean, you can if you really want to.
Yep.
But it's also okay. Do what makes you happy.
Yes.
I still might let my ADHD run
A little bit wild. I might take a cactus home just cause I can.
I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for the tour. It was very special, actually. I grew up. My mom also grew cacti. That was my first
yeah,
kind of
right.
memory around
Yeah,
plants.
yeah.
So I think we started from a very similar spot, but we ended up somewhere really different. But I
Yeah,
love that for
yeah.
us. And but this was really special. I really enjoyed this. This was so
Yeah.
different to any garden I've ever been to. And I think you made it more special for sure. You're
I just
a
want
nice
to
guy.
let you know, yeah,
You're a cool guy.
Just so you're feeling really great about it, I've got some caladiums, guys.
Nice.
We're gonna go look at those.
I'm gonna go help him with the caladiums.
I think it's time to say goodbye. Leave a cactus emoji in the
Goodbye
comment
from
section.
Cactus Country.
Yeah, leave a cactus emoji in the comment section. Let me know your favorite. How do you feel about cacti? Let's start a conversation in the comment section. Also, please check out their Instagram and their website. Visit if you're around, and thanks so much for having us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Definitely get one of these hats, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.